Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Gem Live and welcome back to a video. And I know this is like my fifth different setup and like my fifth straight video. I've been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of moving around, so sorry about the inconsistent setup. But this is actually part 2 of our NBA draft series, and today we're going to be going over the most interesting stories of the NBA draft. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of analysis, they said there wasn't much substance to this draft, not much to take away from it, kind of boring. Well, I say they're not looking at the right things. I found a lot of things in this NBA draft that were they're really interesting to me, so let's get straight into it. The first thing I wanted to look at is actually really interesting that nobody traded out of their spot in the lottery. For those of you who don't know, the lottery is the first 14 picks in the draft, and nobody traded up or back for a pick. And I love when this happens because a few years ago we got this where the Hawks traded with the Mavericks and it was Luka Doncic for Trae Young. And now for the rest of their careers, those players are going to be compared to each other because they could have been on this team, he could have been on this team. And I love it. And I love it's a great opportunity for the teams like the Knicks and Charlotte to just completely fuck up the draft and take a really terrible player that's a huge bust and give up on a generational talent. I love when this happens, but actually nobody traded up or down. So that was really something to look at. We had a few last year and a lot the year before. So very interesting that didn't happen. And that leads us into our next thing. With the number 4 overall pick, the Chicago Bulls took Patrick Williams when I think they could have gotten a lot later. And I want to talk about this pick because not only, I think they did try to trade back because they probably could have gotten him quite a bit later, like probably even after like 10 or 15 picks. But Patrick Williams to the Bulls was kind of the best summary of this entire draft with its all on potential. Patrick Williams wasn't even a starter in college. He was the number 4 overall pick, the 4th best player in the entire world that was eligible for the draft this year. And he wasn't even the 5th best player on his college team. Like, this makes no sense to me. And so I did a lot of research before the draft. I like to focus more on NBA and NFL and like the very top prospects. So I don't know everyone from every college team, football, basketball. But I do like to know the people that are going to make immediate impacts. And I'm going to say Patrick Williams was not on my radar going into the draft. But I definitely looked him up afterwards, and it's kind of even gotten more confusing to me because he has good size. He's like a 4. He has a decent mid-range. He has a good free throw percentage, but they love his defensive potential and his high motor and his offensive boards, things like that. And they just think he has a lot of potential. And they did a draft comparison to OG Anunoby. That's very, like, OG Anunoby should be ecstatic that he got compared to someone who got drafted 4th overall in the NBA draft. Like, that just literally blows my mind. The Bulls really liked him. It wasn't they were kind of secret about him till like the very end, and they were getting higher and higher on him. And I was just following this stuff, and I was like, really, who is this guy? But I don't know. The criticisms they have of him is that he wasn't even a starter. He has not a very offensively developed game. He just has more of a high motor. Also, they said he can be too much of a nice guy, doesn't have enough grit or that will to win. And it was kind of really strange. I don't know if you guys watched the draft. Everyone's draft summaries, when they got picked, it was like, oh, he's been grinding since he was 3 years old. He's been this and this. And like the first like 5 minutes of Patrick Williams was talking about how he worked for his mom's flower shops and talking about that, which is like really sweet, but kind of fucking weird if you're the 4th overall pick. And I don't see any basketball highlights of you. It's just you like working as a florist. So that was very interesting to me. Let me know what you guys think about that. But we're getting into our next thing. Okay, the next thing that I saw is I didn't see this till after the draft, but I looked at the draft order and what happened to blue blood schools. Usually the best prospects out of every class come from Kentucky, Duke, Gonzaga, North Carolina, Villanova. Let me read you this year's draft order. I'm not going to read the players, but where they came from. We have Georgia, Memphis, Illawarra, Florida State, Auburn, USC, France, Dayton, International, Maryland, Florida State, Iowa State, Alabama, Vanderbilt. And at number 15 was the first blue blood school taken, which was North Carolina, Cole Anthony. And I think he should have gone even further down in this list because I wasn't very impressed with what he did at all. So I think he could have gone even further. But so 15, that seems pretty good. But compared to just last year, in the top 15, so Cole Anthony was number 15. In the top 15 last year, there was 3 from Duke, 2 from Kentucky, 2 from North Carolina, and 1 from Gonzaga. And so we have to look at this because this is very interesting. Is this a new trend, or what does this mean? So either stars are deciding that they want to be the star on their own respective team, like Trae Young did with Oklahoma, Mo Bamba did with Texas, several other players that are top recruits like James Wiseman wanted to go and be the man at Memphis, even though it didn't work out for him. I actually really, really like seeing this. I like that the talent is being spread out across the NBA. And I was saying, I go to San Diego State. I was saying, I could get any top recruit, like bring them to campus. Like, we make the tournament every year. You could be the man on campus. Everyone will know you. Everyone will like you. You're going to get more draft notice because you're not in this, that, the other thing. It just makes sense to go to a good school that can compete well, and you're going to be the guy and get more draft notoriety. And so you have to go to a blue blood to get drafted high. This draft proved that you didn't. And North Carolina's record was actually 14-19 last year. Their worst in forever, as long as I can remember for sure. So what does this mean about Blue Bloods? I think the camera died right there, but I got it recharged back up, and I'm not really exactly sure where I finished off. I was pretty much at the end of what I was saying, but I was saying what's going on with Blue Bloods. I kind of like this new trend because Blue Bloods, even though they are very exciting to watch and they put together these super teams like they did with RJ Barrett and Zion and that whole team, it was crazy. I do like the NBA or like the college is spreading its stars out more across the league, and it's giving them more opportunities, and it's giving more teams that are actually exciting to watch instead of these just few colleges. So the next thing I want to look at is Obi Toppin to the Knicks at number 8. This was really interesting for the Knicks to do this because they really needed a point guard. They are stacked I'm saying they're stacked at the forward position. That doesn't mean they're all good. That means they have a lot of them. So they have a lot of forwards. Some of them are shitty. Some of them are pretty good. But they really, really needed a long-term point guard for the future. I didn't know if they were going to be able to sign a top point guard. They did end up getting Austin Rivers, but in my head is how long-term is that really? Is he someone that can even be a playoff point guard with not much talent around him? I really don't think so. So that kind of confused me. This draft had a lot of potential in it. Besides, even within the top 3, there's a lot of potential, but nobody's like a clear cut. So to take a risk at a position you really need that you could hit on and get a generational point guard, I think they should have done that. And if the Pistons didn't take Kelly and Hayes, just the pick before them, I believe that's where they would have gone in this draft. And they did pass on the point guard from Iowa State, who I was really high on, but they did end up picking Obi Toppin, and I'm not hugely opposed to this. He was the AP Player of the Year in college. He had some high-flying dunks, and I just thought he was kind of like a big transition, but he really did have a lot of stuff in half court. He had some step-back threes. He could space the floor pretty well. He didn't do anything too flashy, didn't really show me any like crazy handles, but he did show me that he was very, very efficient, very effective, very strong and powerful. I kind of wish he ended up on a more dynamic team, but I do like the story that he is from New York. He really didn't have much attention on him going into college, and he was able to be a top 10 pick. That's super cool. Not sure. I wouldn't put it past the Knicks to not do much with him, not develop him that much. So I'm excited for Obi Toppin. I'm really glad that he got to go in the NBA. Amazing story, but they really didn't fill that point guard position like I think they needed to. And also, I would love to see Obi Toppin on a different team. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about in this draft is this is actually titled Suns Pull This Shit Again. So the Suns finally look like an actual team that can make the playoffs. At the end of the NBA bubble, they were actually invited to the bubble because they had some off chance to make it if they won a lot of their games, all their games, and the other teams lost most of their games. Well, they went 8-0. They still didn't make the playoffs because not enough teams above them lost, which people said that's unfair. It's not. They should have won more games earlier. But I don't know. So I was really, really high on this, and I was thinking, okay, the Suns, they have a good core now. They shouldn't trade anyone away. They should try and sign people like, hey, we're the new exciting team that you can play with. We have 2 stars in Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Come play for us. Well, they signed super old, injury-prone, super expensive Chris Paul. And I'm not crazy about this. Chris Paul, what he did with the Thunder was so amazing. I was not expecting that at all. Huge props to him. Literally he carried that team and almost beat the Rockets in the playoff series. So, but he wasn't injured. He actually had 5 months off before the playoffs started, which I think was amazing for him. I think he is a pretty decent pairing for Devin Booker, but he's so short term. Like, he's 1 or 2 years, and I don't think the Suns are in a 1 to 2 year championship window like the Lakers are with LeBron. So they're really not going all out. They should have added different veteran talent. I didn't know if they couldn't get anyone. But who they picked, they got Jalen Smith from Maryland. And they so they took him at 11, I believe. And he wasn't even projected to go until like 27 or something. So they reached for him. But if he's their guy, you really shouldn't have any shame in this. But that's just not being a smart GM. If you know you can get him for sure at like the early 20, mid 20 range, then trade and get some assets. Like, get your guy that you desperately wanted and get another pick or two. So that's just how you be a good GM. And I feel like the Suns consistently make bad moves like this. They consistently haven't put enough people around Devin Booker. I have no idea why he's wanting to stay. That little 8-0 stint before probably just gave him so much false hope. And then the signing of Chris Paul, it's not enough. I mean, they might make the playoffs. Like, that's exciting for like a Suns fan. I don't know if that's enough for Devin Booker. But if you're telling me that Suns team could beat the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, they could probably beat the Rockets now. But I don't know. They're not going to win a championship. Like, I'll tell you that much right now. But I actually really liked what I saw from Jalen Smith. He's also someone that I looked a little bit about, but after he was drafted so early, I looked a lot more into him. And highlights are actually really good to watch sometimes. Sometimes they can be really deceiving with like crazy dunks. You see people in high school throwing between the legs, 360, but like, can they play basketball at all? No. Like, so highlights really hurt them in that point. But also looking only at stats can hurt you. And this is why I wasn't so high on Marvin Bagley coming out of college, because I saw his game. I saw him put up crazy numbers. I saw him be a dominant force. He had no right hand. He really didn't have many moves. He was just more athletic than people, missing shots, grabbing his own rebound, putting it back in. So he's building his rebound stats. He's getting a lot of points. He's pretty efficient. But I wasn't too sold on him because he wasn't that diverse. Jalen Smith, on the other hand, when I watched his highlights, even though he didn't have all the stats to back up how good he actually plays, he was hitting tough shots. He was hitting turnaround jumpers. This is something like I saw in like Jason Tatum, because even though he wasn't the clear-cut number 1 overall pick, what I saw from him in college was he's NBA ready. And so what I saw from Jalen Smith is a lot of diversity, very, very explosive, and I think he'll work great with DeAndre Ayton and the Suns team in general. So I really think the Suns reached, and they could have done better managing it, but it's not their fault if they couldn't find anybody to trade for, because maybe nobody wanted to move up in this draft just because the talent wasn't all there. But with this draft, you can say it was different, but you can't say it wasn't interesting. There's a lot of things we took from it, like what happened to blue blood schools, all this potential. The 4th overall pick was a bench player. Obi Toppin to the Knicks. Did the Knicks really get any better? Do any of their signings make sense? Will the Knicks be terrible forever? Maybe. I don't know. But I really enjoyed watching the draft. I kind of tied part 3 into the series a little bit, so I'm only going to stick to 2 parts. There's a lot of football stuff I want to cover and a lot more other NBA things besides the draft I want to cover. So I tried to get it all in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will probably be in a different location in the next video because that's kind of been the trend lately. But thank you so much. I'm kind of in a big area, so if the mic quality's a little worse, I'm very sorry. But like, comment, subscribe. It really helps a lot. It really helps my videos get more recognized, and I really appreciate it. And have a good day, guys. Peace.